All praises. So happy feast once again. We can say it for 8 days. You know what I'm saying? Look, we ain't got no hand clap. They over there. They at the soundboard. They got an extra person. But there it is. Boom. No, all praises. Hey, so y'all know how I like to start off. The class today is actually called "It Takes a Village: The Young Prophets." All right. So this one will be focused on the young prophets. The next one that I do will be focused on the young daughters of Sarah. All right. So let's put the book up real quick. Let's put the book up. The cover of the book. One that Bishop Yawasab references. He's referenced it many times before, but we're gonna read a couple other pages that he reads out of it and talk about it a little bit. Or a few pages. This will be a lot of reading. A lot of reading when it comes to this book. So let's get that up on the screen. The conspiracy. All right. We waiting on IT to get the book up there. But while we waiting. So, Lord's will, no, well, really, hopefully nobody was offended at what came out on the Sabbath about how we are taking care of our young prophets and how we are to take their presentation serious because of the fact that they are the young prophets. They are the avengers that's going to come up after us, Lord's will, as long as they endure and is true. But whenever we want them, if we don't do our job as parents and ignore them, then we fail them. We're creating an environment where they won't be successful because they already have everything against them. And so we have to keep that in mind, and that is why it takes a village to raise the young prophets and the young daughters. But today we gonna focus on the young men. All right, so let's put that on the screen right here. Let's go ahead and put that on the screen. I don't know if y'all have this book, but this book right here, of course, is Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, all right, by Joanza Kajofu. I don't know if y'all have that book, but if you don't, as a father, as a mother, parents, you should read this book. It is a good book. It is a good book. So let's go into it real quick. All right, Hakan, we ready for you? So we gonna jump straight to page 7 where it talks about I just really want the topic right here because that chapter or that particular topic is very big in the book. So let's go ahead and jump into it.
Yes, sir. It says fourth grade failure syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Since 1974, I've been an, I have been a national consultant to public and private school, ranging from preschool through college. My responsibilities are to conduct workshops for teachers and parents to provide cultural assembly programs for children.
So that's what the author of this book did. He would go around actually hosting workshops and things like that, and giving out cultural assembly programs for children and giving people the understanding as of their responsibility to the children to make sure that the black kids come up properly. Let's read on.
It was during my travels that I recognized the conspiracy, often so subtle, mentioned previously. Let me first begin with the innocence of black boys who bring enthusiasm to the classroom, trust their teachers, and are willing to please.
So this right here is the fourth grade failure syndrome. So this is what ends up happening. So what he's saying is, at first when he go, the young black boys, they bring enthusiasm to the classroom. They trust the teachers, and they are willing to please. They do not want to disappoint their teachers nor their parents at this particular time before they get to the fourth grade. Let's go on to the next page. We're not going to read all of this. This is going to be on another page that I want. I just wanted to touch that first paragraph because this guy, the author of the book is an expert. He was an expert in this matter. All right, so let's go on to the next page. Zoom in. All right, so we went from page 7. Now we are on page 18. All right, so let's read this right here. Oh, yeah, there we go.
Its sociology consists of studying the so-called pathology of the ghetto. Political science is learned from the unscrupulous exploits of corrupt politicians.
Mm-hmm.
History from years of discrimination and economic deprivation, biological
Biology.
biology from youth smoking marijuana
Uh-huh.
and having sex in dirty alleys, and the physical science are taught by learning how to endure elements unfit for human consumption.
So this right here is a study, like where they learn these things and the exploits of corrupt politicians. So they host these different things, and of course, when it talks about the ghetto, all the stuff that they said is what happens in the ghetto. Many of us grew up in it. Shoot, I grew up in the ghetto, in the hood, in the projects. A lot of us did. But then we'll we'll see these different things, and we thought this stuff was normal. We thought it was no problem. Like, that's just what everybody do. That's just what they do. But let's read on.
The theoretical reference for the street institution reflects how the people actually live and how others would like them to function.
Mm-hmm.
There are no semester breaks or summer vacations for study in the ghetto colony.
Mm-hmm.
It is a continuous cycle which never stops, not even in the face of death.
So this right here is saying they study the ghetto all the time, and they influence, and they want to influence the way we operate, we move. That is what they're wanting to do. All right, so they always studying our people, and you see these things when you go down to different areas, because a lot of people don't even know. But when you go to Charleston, you still see them driving around the dang on projects down there with horse carriages and Edomites taking trips. They say that it's only to see the landmarks that's down there, but in certain areas there's only one spot. So why do you gotta ride around the whole project area or the hood where only our people live? It's because they forever studying our people. They forever looking at how we are and trying to influence the way we act. Go ahead.
The value of the street institutions.
Matter of fact, while we at it, let's get a scripture. Psalms 83. Psalms 83. This goes into that, because this is something that they all do. Psalms 83 and 2. Start at 2.
The book of Psalms, chapter 83 and verse 2.
Uh-huh.
For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up thy head.
Go ahead.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people,
Mm-hmm.
and have consulted against thy hidden ones.
Go ahead.
They have said, come, and let us cut them off from being a nation,
Read.
that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
It will be no more in remembrance. That our heritage, our name, would no more be in remembrance. And a lot of times when we come into the truth, matter of fact, shoot, all of us, when we come into the truth, we all are coming out of this particular mindset right here. And if we got kids, we coming out of that mindset right there, trying to reverse the effects of the things that we had done. All right, let's scroll down. Right here, or say a research. Yep.
A research study commissioned in New Orleans by the public school system and led by Anton Gabaldi reviewed the problems facing black boys.
Go ahead.
This study shows the level of declining academic success, and it shows how the problem starts very early.
Mm-hmm.
This does not negate my concern about the fourth grade. I am simply saying that black boys, in spite of harsh problems they experience, do reasonably well.
So this right here is saying prior to the fourth grade, even though we are in those conditions where if we'd have read everything around pimps, gangs, all of that stuff, we do well up until the fourth grade. Up until the fourth grade, because also, sometimes I have brothers ask certain questions about, like, what do you do to keep your sons engaged? What do you do because they got a low attention span? Our children don't have a low attention span. They have a low attention span outside of the video game. They got a low attention span when it comes to reading books or going through the scriptures, because that's not what you're feeding them all day. But we're going to talk about that. Keep going. Keep reading. I'm jumped the gun already. Go ahead.
The object in this chapter is to analyze the factors that are taking place in the lives of black boys between the ages of 9 and 13.
Go ahead.
And what we can do to circumvent them.
Mm-hmm. Scroll down.
The significance of this research lies on the areas of public policy and intervention.
Mm-hmm.
There is a limited amount of human financial resources. It becomes paramount that all programs are designed to be cost effective.
So like it said up above, It said that, listen, hey, we do well in those tough situations, and then this study and things like that that he analyzed in this book was for the ages primarily of 9 to 13. But like he said in that paragraph, that it starts earlier than that. Our declining starts before we hit 9. It's just at 9 that is when it starts to be noticeable. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next one. So presently in the U.S. government, yep, let's scroll on up to the top of that. I think you zoomed in too much. We can't see the words to the right. Oh, praise. Now that's good right there. Yeah, here we go. So the U.S. government allocates. Go ahead.
Allocates between 18,000 and 38,000 to send someone to prison. 2,300 to Head Start.
Now, that 18,000, 38,000 has gone way up now. This book was back early 2000s or whatnot. Now we in 2024, so you can only imagine that 38 is probably around 60, I believe now. Damn. Somebody, hey, IT, look it up and see what it is now. What is the cost for someone to go to prison now? But at this time, it was 18,000, 38,000, and then it was 2,300 to go to Head Start. Go ahead.
And 10,000 to send someone to public college.
Yeah, that definitely done gone way up, because shoot, when I went to college, it was way more. Right. Yeah, no. All right, go ahead.
What is unfortunate is that 85% of the inmates released from prison return.
Mm-hmm.
Yet all kinds of studies reinforce the conclusion that Head Start, Chapter 1, and college are effective.
Go ahead.
If we are serious about solving the problems facing black boys, then I think we need to understand when it's best time to intervene.
So what he's saying is when it comes to Head Start and college, it says that it's effective. But where is the issues, and where do we have to understand where the problem starts so we can fix it? Go ahead. Which is what his book is about, is his analysis pertaining to that. Go ahead.
As a national consultant to school districts, one of the workshops I enjoyed giving the most is entitled Factors That Contribute to the Fourth Grade Syndrome.
Factors that contribute to the fourth grade syndrome, because that's when we start, our black boys begin to lose interest in school. They lose interest in anything academically. Then like it said in another part of the book, the most important thing is his toy and his video game. That's the most important thing to him. Now you got the cell phone. Take the place of that. But go ahead.
I strongly believe that only when we understand what is taking place in the lives of African American boys at the age of 9 will we be able to rectify it.
Go ahead.
The factors that contribute to the decline in African American boys' achievement are.
Scroll down. Let's get these, because we're not going to talk about all these, but we're going to talk about the first two. But we're going to read all of them. But we're going to talk about the first two right there.
A decline in parental involvement, an increase in peer pressure.
So it says a decline in parental involvement. So what he's saying is by the time our children hit the fourth grade, the parents are involved heavily up until that point. And then when they hit fourth grade, they then take their hands off gradually at an alarming rate, to where they they know how to read good enough to do their own homework. They know how to read good enough to do whatever. They self-sufficient. They go fix their own sandwich, whatever. They go watch TV, make sure you finish your work, and then that's it. That's what he's saying we do when it says a decline in parental involvement. Then it says an increase in peer pressure. That is when they start to seek the approval of people in the streets, because they're not getting that approval at home. Because for one, the parental involvement has fallen off, and now the increase in peer pressure, because they're not getting that encouragement or that exhortation at home, that now the friends around them are the biggest influence that they have. Go ahead, let's read the rest of those.
A decline in nutrients.
Nurturance.
A decline in teacher expectation. A lack of understanding of learning styles, and a lack of male teachers.
Now, that lack of teacher expectations, that's a heavy one. We gonna touch that one, but it just won't be today. But we are gonna touch that, because what that goes into is how it's something that I was taught growing up. I was taught by my grandfather a lot when I was growing up. He said, if you don't have high expectations for your children, they will fail you every time. Meaning, if you don't set the bar high and you don't give them nothing to aim for, they're going to fail every time because they don't know how to please you. As fathers, our kids want to please us. And a lot of times we don't understand that. Even us as men, even if our fathers wasn't there, we still wanted that or long for that stamp of approval from our fathers, our dads. That's what we wanted. Even though they may not have been there all our life or there at all. Or we'll say, I want to be better than my father. Well, why? Because you want that stamp of approval, even though he was not there. But go ahead. Now we finna read. Like I said, we're going to go over the first two.
Parental involvement.
Mm-hmm.
As age increases, parental involvement decreases. I don't know who told parents that when children become older, they need less of our time rather than more.
Go ahead.
When I speak to Head Start parents across the country, 80% of them are present. At an elementary school level, 30%. Show and most high schools, parent meetings aren't even considered.
So at the early age, he's saying what he saw was 80% of the parents were present. And then at the elementary school level or whatnot, then it becomes 30%. So they begin to fall off. And a lot of times we'll see that even in the truth. We'll see that with our young boys in the truth a lot. Now, I've seen it going to other congregations, but we got that issue here. We have that problem here. That's why it takes a village. But it starts with the parents that's at the house. But it's going to take all of us to do it. But it's going to start with the parents that's at the house. Don't take your hands off of them. Matter of fact, Proverbs. Let's go to Proverbs 22 and 6. Let's read that. Proverbs 22 and 6.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 22 and verse 6.
Go ahead.
Train up a child in the way he should go,
Mm-hmm.
and when he is old, he will not depart from it.
So it said we must train them up in the way they should go. And like obviously Yashara brought out, that verse ain't just for us making sure they understand the scriptures. This is our heritage. This is our baseline. This is literally our foundation. But why don't we teach our kids to go be doctors?
Message.
Why don't we introduce them to being engineers? Why do we keep those things out of the picture and then just say when they grow up they could be whatever they want to be? That's because you've taken your hand off of them. And because you've taken your hand off of them, now they've gone and now they don't have anything to really look forward to because they don't have any requirements to look for, to try to reach for, or any expectations that you put there. Listen, this is what I want you to be. And I'm going to introduce it to you this way. There's many books that are about biology and everything at a elementary level to where kids can learn the science behind the body, to where when they want to go in to be a doctor, they already got some understanding on it. But because us as parents, we take our hands off, we forget. We think they just going to miraculously start doing these different things, and that's not how it works. All right, so let's scroll down. But like I said right here, man, you get during elementary school, 30%, and in high school, they don't even consider a parent meeting. They don't even consider it. It's during their non-existent. Let's see. Let's read this.
My wife and I have 2 sons. We believe that the oldest son needs us more than the youngest. We need parents that will remain involved in their son's growth and development from infancy through age 18 and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
It bothers me that we have so many parents who will attend their children's graduation and such a small number who attend PTA meetings.
And the PTA, that's the parent-teacher association, that thing where you parents get involved in the education of your children, but they'll be there at the graduation. That's what he's saying, that they'll show up to that, but ain't really involved in the education. Go ahead.
I call these people graduation parents.
Dang. Go ahead. Hold on. That's bad. That's really a mockery. You'll have some people might think that's a compliment. That's not a compliment. My son graduated. Or what did you do to help him graduate? Nothing. They passed them through. They can barely read at an 8th grade level, which the Bible is written in the 8th grade level. They can barely read at that level, barely comprehend, and you did nothing to help them. But you showed up and all you said was, I was there for my kids. You count that as being there for your kids, yet and still you was not there to guide them nowhere in that process. Nowhere in that process. Keep on. Let's go.
Can you imagine instituting a rule that says parents can attend graduation only if they went to, say, an average of 6 PTA meetings per year?
Dang. Hey, look, most of the parents wouldn't even be there. You would have a handful of parents at the graduation if that rule was put in place. Because only a few would show up to the PTA meetings. And if you had to be there at 6 of them per year, you have parents make more excuses to stay at home and watch a darn gone football game than they do to go to the darn school about their kids' education. And that's what we tend to do. And we'll see it when we come in here to the school. Let's go on over to the next one. Let's go on over to the next one. Next page. We're just reading some stuff out of this book that stuck out to me, man. Because it was crazy. Scroll up. All right, let's read this. Like I said, we're gonna touch on peer pressure, and then we're gonna get into the script because I ain't gonna hold y'all long. I'm gonna do this because this is the book that I'm reading right now. So I want to talk about it a little bit. Let's go.
Peer pressure. For most children, peer pressure has become the number one influence in their lives, exceeding the influence of parents, teachers, and ministry. There are several reasons for this. An obvious one is that our children spend more time with their peers than with their adults, their parents, teachers, and ministers. They want to look and act like their friends. And that's why role models, especially adult black role models, are so important. Mothers have often told me that when I say something that they've been telling their sons for years, they finally hear me. And that's because it means more coming from a black man.
That's a heavy point right there. That is a heavy point right there because we've been told that the black man is not important. You'll have sisters get married. Like people make mistakes or whatever when they was young. So they had children when they was young. Or even they with the father of the children. And they'll marry that man. And then as soon as that man want to give their kids direction, they son direction and discipline them, all of a sudden the mother want to stand between him and his son. When he ain't listening to you as the mother. But then you'll have the black man come to lay the law down because he understands what he's finna have to go through as a black man. And you will have women, the black women, get in the way. That is Willie Lynch all day long. Willie Lynch letter. I wish I'd have thought about pulling it up for the class, but I ain't think about it. Just thought about it just now. You have the Willie Lynch letter all day long where the woman will raise her son to be physically strong and mentally weak, but she will raise her daughters to be mentally strong. And then we'll wonder why our children that come up, they have no confidence in themselves. They really don't know how to talk to people. And these are the sons I'm talking about. Because you'll have the sisters to be in here. Shoot, the young sisters to be in here with no problem. Confident is all outside. And in that very same house, there is a son in that house. And he ain't got no confidence. Message. He don't have the same oomph about itself as his sisters do. And we will then ignore that, and the women will just act like that's just for the single women, I'll say, because there is single mothers that have that situation or whatnot, and they'll just throw them off on the men. That's why I say it's going to take a village, but it's still got to start at home. But then you'll have, in some cases, you'll have a man in the house, and that very same thing happens. The very same thing happens. A son come in, no confidence. Son come in, don't want to open his mouth. He's sitting there, and like we got on everybody this past Sabbath on how we'll see the young daughters of Sarah, they all dressed up looking nice. They head wraps, shiny clothes, everything looking cool. Then we'll look over at the men, they hair uncut. I remember when black men used to take the sons to the barbershop. Y'all sure was up here talking about it. Shoot, that was a thing. Like, you go to the barbershop and you sit in the barbershop and you listen to the men tell you what you should be doing with your life and what you shouldn't be doing with your life. And you sit there for hours to get a haircut. We've gotten away from that because women don't believe men are needed. And now we have young boys in the truth that are coming in from outside, and the mothers and the fathers are supposed to be changing that. And you see the exact same thing. Matter of fact, it's better out in the world. You see more kids out. Can somebody look up? This is to the extreme. Just type in woman in Walmart or grocery store with a son with a bag on him. Y'all know what I'm talking about? So, let's read these. Let's read these while we wait on him to get that. Let's go to the one Officer Kassad that pulled. I like that thing when he pulled it. Psalm 23 and 7. Psalm 23 and 7. Like I said, I'm just going to elaborate on it a little bit today because it's been on my mind for a little second. All right, let's read that. Psalms 20, not 20. Did I write 23? God dang it. What was it, 24? What is it? As a man thinketh. What is that? Dang, why did I write 23? You write 23. Proverbs. What did I say? Psalms? Yes, sir. Okay, Proverbs.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 23 and verse 7.
All right.
For as he thinketh in his heart.
So as the young men think in their minds, go ahead.
So is he.
So is he. So if he doesn't think he's anybody come fourth grade, then that's how he's going to feel. If he doesn't have anything to reach for because he's a young kid, he don't know how to set goals. That's why I said for us as parents to raise them up in the way they should go. This is what you are going to do. And then introduce it to them. That's why Bishop Yalsova brought it out one time about the about how black boys are given toys that are already built versus giving them a model and they got to build the car themselves. It teaches them to want to be engineers. It puts it in the mindset of them wanting to be inventors. But we steal it from them because we just want them to shut up and be quiet, so we get them a toy to play with so they can leave us alone. That's how we look at it as parents, so they can leave us alone. As though they're not, like it even says it on your taxes when you're dependent. They're dependent on you, and you don't think they should be bothering you. When you go fill out taxes to get your child credit, it's cool to say dependent then. But when they really depend on you and want to learn something, want to grow, then we turn our back on them. That's it. And then we leave them with haircuts. Well, shoot, without haircuts. We don't even, and we're gonna read that thing. We are going to read it. Let's show this. This is an extreme situation. But it is absolutely. It's not this extreme in the truth. Lord's will. This ain't nobody in the truth. But what we do see is single mothers when they do come in. And it's because y'all don't have a hedge. But as mothers, as you learn these commandments, you're supposed to take on the attributes of the scriptures that you're reading and learning and not just wait. Newsflash, you're not going to get married. A man ain't going to want to marry you if you can't take care of your own kids. If you won't even cut your son hair, why would he then want to marry you? It's just a haircut. And we've said it before, even if you cannot pay for it. We got barbers in here. And we got a bunch of ranked men and bunch of men. We will donate. Look, if you can't pay him, just tell him you can't pay him. He'll come to us with a list. He ain't going to go to everybody. He'll come to us with a list. He ain't even going to say who it was. It was 1, 2. I cut 6 heads and 4 of them didn't pay. Cool. All the ranked men put in $3 each. He got his money for cutting those children hair that could not pay. Easy. It only cost us $3. Why wouldn't we want to do that? But because y'all ain't thinking like that, because you're just letting them go where the daughters come in, they're her done.
Bring it out.
So I know y'all probably gonna be mad. It's okay, and I'm pretty sure they're experiencing this in other congregations. But we are raising avengers, and that's how we gotta treat them. They gotta grow up that way. All right, so let's play this video. Let's play the video, because this was a little boy, right? This was a young boy in the buggy. Let's read that. I mean, play the video.
This is the deeply unsettling scene at a Walmart in Jackson, Mississippi, where shoppers encountered a young boy, dressed only in a diaper, shivering in the freezing cold. This shocking moment unfolded during a harsh winter storm, with temperatures dropping to 37 Fahrenheit, just over 2 Celsius. The boy was without proper clothing, leading to an urgent response from bystanders. A compassionate shopper wrapped a jacket around the trembling child while another bought warm clothes for him. Felicia Nicole, a Walmart employee alongside other concerned shoppers, confronted the mother about her toddler.
So you got, hold on, pause it right here. It's cold as heck outside. The kid is shaking. All he got on is a plastic bag, and he even in they shoot. Not only is it cold outside, then he come inside and he by the darn freezer. He cold there too. And it's people that started getting on this sister, and she started getting mad at them. And sometimes our sisters in the truth get just like this woman right here. They get mad when they get corrected. They get upset, not understanding that we care about you and your child.
Message.
And so whenever we bring those things up to you, it's not for you to go off and fly off the handle. And most of the time, shoot, it's said to you way on the side, long time before we end up talking about it in the classroom. Well, many of you. Shoot, I know for a fact it's been said to many people on the side, not just here, but even in other places. So these things happen. Now, this right here, like I said, is an extreme thing. Let's go, keep playing. Uh-oh.
That baby just had a pimple on. I can't. Yeah, don't do that. Somebody call police.
So something, look, it says somebody called the police on this woman. And look, and she talking about lower your voice. Hold on, pause it. Pause it right there now. Now she's sitting up here telling this grown man right here who look old enough to probably be her pops, talking about lower your voice while she walking around with her son in a plastic bag where other people went and bought clothes to put on this baby. You could take that off the screen, officer. Huh? All right, let's go ahead. She gonna tell. Oh God, here we go. That's what Bishop Yalsop, Bishop Kanai, Bishop Day, all of them. The black woman she went to her superpower. Her superpower is to just twerk, as though the issue got any better by her doing that. But like I said, that's to an extreme. Let's go to Lamentations 4 real quick. Lamentations 4. So you imagine, so you saw how her kid was unkept. Unkept. Let's go to Lamentations 4 and verse 3. I think that's what I want.
Yes, sir. The book of Lamentations, chapter 4 and verse 3.
Go ahead.
Even the sea monster draw out the breast.
So the sea monsters draw out the breast. Go ahead.
They give suck to their young ones. The daughters of my people is become cruel.
So the mothers have become cruel. Have become cruel. Care for nothing but themselves. That is cruel. You have a whole baby pass through your womb and you care nothing about that baby. And that's supposed to be the moment where they lay the baby across your chest and there is a automatic connection with that child. Our mothers have become so cruel that that particular feeling is gone.
Right.
Go ahead.
Like the ostriches in the wilderness.
Like the ostriches in the wilderness. Go ahead.
The tongue of the suckling child cleave to the roof of his mouth
Uh-huh.
for thirst.
They won't even the mothers won't even feed their children, won't nurture or take care of their children. Go ahead.
The young children ask bread,
Uh-huh.
And
They hungry. Go ahead.
and no man breaketh it unto them.
And nobody's feeding them. Go ahead.
They that did feed delicately and desolate in the streets, they that were brought up in scarlet embraced dunghills.
So this right here. Go ahead. So this right here was what ended up happening. Go ahead. We went into slavery. Go ahead. Under Babylon. Go ahead.
For the punishment of the iniquity of the daughters of my people,
So the punishment of the iniquity of the daughters of God's people, the Israelite woman. Go ahead.
is greater than the punishment of the sin of Sodom,
Is greater than the punishment of the sin of Sodom. Go ahead.
that was overthrown as in a moment, and no hand stayed on her.
And no hand stayed on them. No hand stayed on us. So it's saying that our mothers, because they have taken the hand, like really, like when you think about it, that's like what it say in Luke, ain't it? Where it say where you take your hand off the plow. So you have a child. You start it because you want to have them when they little, where you hold them and hug them and kiss them, because they ain't running around. But then when they legs start working, and they mouth start working, they start talking, and they want to learn to ask questions. Now you want them to sit down. Now you like, I wish I never had them. And we be mocked as people because we will have children because we just want the beginning stages. Just like women when they get married, they just want the wedding. They don't want the hard work to stay married. That is what's going on with our daughters today, our mothers today.
Message.
Let's go to 1 Samuel. 2 Samuel 19. 2 Samuel 19. Because like I said, it's, and I'm getting on the mothers right now, but we gonna deal with the fathers too. Go ahead. 1924.
The book of 2 Samuel, chapter 19 and verse 24.
Because like I said, that those kids, they were thirsty, they were hungry, meaning they needed to be taken care of. But also, let's read this right here. Let's read this.
And
Mephibosheth.
Mephibosheth, the son of Saul.
Oh Lord, I'm sorry. I couldn't just let it go. Yo, you gotta read it again. I want to hear you try again. I'm sorry. Mephibosheth. Go ahead, let me see it. Mephibosheth.
And Mephibosheth,
Go ahead.
the son of Saul, came down to meet the king, and had neither dressed his feet, nor trimmed his beard, nor washed his clothes from the day that the king departed until the day he came again in peace.
So this right here is talking about Mephibosheth. Now, when we read it, we'll read this, and we'll overlook the fact that what this is saying is he didn't keep himself up because he was in mourning while David was gone. He was waiting on David to come back, letting you know he was not like that all the time. All the majority of the time, he had himself together. There was something that was common amongst our people. Now, we're going to go, like we pulled up, on how this looks whenever we see our sons come in here, or men. Now, we're talking about the sons, but we see some of you grown men. That is why the leadership say, look, come here, iron your clothes, crease your pants, because that's how we were. We weren't no bummy-looking people. Where we at? Here we go. Let's read it where it say, we'll jump straight to it, where it say trim this mustache right there.
Trimmed his mustache. In ancient Israel, grooming practices were culturally significant.
So grooming practices were culturally significant. So that lets you know that we didn't take looking good lightly. Go ahead.
A mustache.
The mustache.
The mustache, a symbol of dignity and status.
Now that's talking about the beard, of course, the mustache and the beard. Go ahead.
When left untrimmed, indicated a period of mourning or distress.
So whenever it was untrimmed or unkept, that was a period of mourning or distress. So whenever our kids come in here and they look like they haven't had a haircut, and the mothers, like I've heard mothers say, well, I'm just going to let them do with it what they want to do with it. They children. You gonna, when they get 13, you going to say, clean your room. They not going to know how. You going to say, go wash your behind, take a bath, clean yourself up. They not going to know how. because
no.
you've let them choose to do nothing all that time and say, well, that's how he want to be. As
Wrong.
though he knows
Wrong.
any better. They don't know any better.
Right.
Which lets us know as leaders over the flock to examine the state of the flock, there is distress going on at home. That child is in distress. And a lot of mothers say, my child ain't in distress. He happy. Then why don't he look that way?
Wrong. Wrong.
You know, that's why I said, when we read the book, it talks about the young boys not being cute after they hit a certain age. Then they start classifying them as they become aggressive. They become villains, pretty much. That's what they pretty much call them. Because when they're young, you know, we hear it all the time with little babies and stuff. That is a happy baby. Well, why wouldn't they get 7? Nobody says, or 8 or 9. Nobody says that's a happy young son right there.
Message.
Why don't we still say that? That is because that kid is in distress. They come in, their hair not done. They not kept up. The parents aren't teaching them how to upkeep themselves when it was culturally significant.
Right.
The only reason why we looked out of place or like we didn't upkeep ourselves during mourning and distress. So let's read the rest of it. Mephibosheth's
neglect of his appearance is a deliberate act of solidarity with David, expressing his inner turmoil and longing for his king's return.
And a lot of times, our sons are longing for that connection, whether it be with their fathers or whether that connection that they want with their mothers, or both. So because of that, they have that solidarity to where they're not attached to anybody, but they long for it, so they are in distress. So when you say as a parent, I want you to clean yourself up, they have no clue what you're talking about. They don't know what you're talking about. Read the rest of it.
This detail enriches the narrative, highlighting the personal sacrifices made in the name of loyalty and love.
Made in the name of loyalty and love. And that's what we want our kids to have. Loyalty and love to the parents. And then when they get a certain age, that loyalty and love to the Most High. But us as parents we have to do a better job at making sure that we show our kids what that's like while they're young. So that way when they get older, that respect, that fear that they have for us transitions to respect. And then they got that fear for the Most High. But if we don't do it, if we don't teach them properly, we're going to destroy them. And that's why it takes a village. It takes all the men in the congregation and all the women in the congregation. All right? We could take that down, officer. You could take that down. Let's go. So we got that out of the way. Let's go to, matter of fact, an example of that. Matter of fact, let's go back to the book. I think I had one more page, right? It was one more page. So, okay. No, it's all good. Let's go to First Maccabees. Let's go to First Maccabees 2. First Maccabees 2 and 64. Because the sons, when we read this story here, and you read about the sons, that they actually, matter of fact, hold that. Second Maccabees 7. Second Maccabees 7:27. Because while we're going through the book of the conspiracy to destroy our young black men, our black sons, that our parents got to take this serious. Let's read this. And a lot of times, these tasks on ordering the house, it primarily falls on the women. Y'all are the first teachers. So whenever you put your hands to the plow and have a baby, and then you don't want to deal with them when they get here, you've turned back in time. That is crazy. Let's read it.
The book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 7 and verse 27.
Go ahead.
But she bowing herself toward him, laughing the
read 26 with it. I like 26. Verse 26 and 27.
Verse 26. And when he had exhorted her with many words, she promised him that she would counsel her son.
So this right here is a mother. She had 7 sons, right? And the son is exhorting his mama. But she also was exhorting her sons. Now read on.
But she bowing herself towards him, laughing the cruel tyrant to scorn.
So they're being persecuted. They're being put to death. She don't watch her kids get killed all in front of her face. She don't watch them all. She watching them all get put to death. But it's telling you what kind of mother she was. And it's also letting you know what kind of sons she had. Because like many times it's been said that you don't read about the father in this particular instance. But you also know that, she was also raising the kids. Now, their father might have died because, our custom was to be married. So she got 7 sons, and she raised them as far as what we know from reading the scriptures. So let's go ahead.
Spake in her country's language on this manner.
Go ahead.
O my son, have pity upon me that bare thee 9 months
Read.
in my womb, and gave thee suck 3 years,
Read.
and nourished thee, and brought thee up unto this age.
And so she brought her sons up to this age. Go ahead.
And endured the troubles of education.
She endured the what?
The troubles of education.
Meaning it is hard to teach your kids. A lot of times sisters will say, I'm enduring in the truth, but won't teach your son. And I only say son right now because we ain't talking about daughters, but it's the same thing for them too. You will say you're enduring in the truth, but then you won't endure teaching your kids. When those very same kids have to be the avengers when we gone.
Right.
And that's why you have these other nations or the heathens saying that this is a fractured organization. We're not fractured. We're not going to let that stand. That is why we bring these things out so that we can examine what we're doing wrong and fix it. So that way we can take it to a whole nother level because they're not going to fall out of this truth. It ain't going to be because of us parents. We going to do our job, and that's what we got to do. So we must endure the troubles of education. So instead of sending them to public school, and it's another part in the book. I loved it. I didn't put it up there either. It's another part in the book where it talks about how us as parents, we pay for education one way or another, whether we pay for it in taxes or we send them to private school. Our people don't even know that it's a tax write-off to send your children to private school. It's a tax write-off. You can actually claim it on your taxes to send your kids to private school. Or you can send them to public school, and you're going to pay the same thing anyway. He talk about that in the book, and it hit me like a ton of bricks because I didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know that. I was like, I'm tripping. It's just me. I was like, man, I didn't know that. I learned a lot in that book. So let's go to the book. Let's go back to the book. Let's go back to the book. To the next page where we were. The peer pressure, right? We was at the black man, right? So then it said many children right here. Many children have also. Yep.
Many children have also told me that when their friends are making comments similar to mine, it means more coming from their friends.
And this word is based off of peer pressure. Go ahead.
Most children emulate people that look like them.
Mm-hmm.
Many people think that all peer pressure is negative.
Go ahead.
Peer pressure is in itself not negative.
Mm-hmm.
Only when peer groups is not reinforcing positive values does it become detrimental.
And that is what we're trying, and that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing in the Young Prophets program. We have a group where that peer pressure is to continue to provoke that young son to go and be better, to learn the scriptures, to better apply himself in his grades in school, to better apply himself at home dealing with his parents, to better apply himself when it comes to learning different skills or different trades. That is what we're doing here. That is what we're doing here, but we can undo all of that when they go home and we don't reinforce it as parents. If they only do that when they're here at the school, then all of that work is going to be undone. This has to be a constant thing. Look, we already read Esau ain't stopping when it comes to examining on how to dictate how we act. Shoot, rap music don't turn off. BET don't turn off no more. The TV don't do the hum, the boo. It don't do that no more. The TV running 24/7 with all kinds of crap on it. 24/7. So what do you think we supposed to be doing as parents? Let's go to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 6. Let's go to Deuteronomy 6. What we supposed to be doing as parents, because they'll come to the school and the officers at the different schools with the children, with the Young Prophets program. That thing it's a night. I love that program because you see the son shoot. Some of them do the cadence better than we do. Some of them go to Camp 101 and be pulling scriptures like grown men and teaching it. I don't know if y'all, I can't remember what's the darn go on Facebook channel, man. Is it called the Young Prophets, the one where the young brothers be on there breaking down the scriptures? Hey, I love that thing, man. I shared one of them. I shared a couple of them. Shared a couple of them on my darn channel. That just fire. I love it. All right, let's read verse 1.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6 and verse 1.
Go ahead.
Now these are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which the Lord your God commanded to teach you, that ye might do them in the land whether you go to possess it.
Whether you go to possess it. All right, so that the commandments were taught to us, verse 7.
Verse 7. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children.
So now it tells us what we learned in the scriptures and the laws, now teach your children. Go ahead.
And thou shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up.
All the time. As long as just as much as Esau and them is trying to predict, or all the other nations as well trying to destroy us, that we forget our name and our heritage, we supposed to be at home combating all of that. All the time.
Right.
So we'll come to the school, we get the lesson from the teachers, we'll get the different projects that the Young Prophets program put out, and then we go home and we got to do it, and then we're supposed to continue to implement what they're going over also in the classroom, and then the stuff that we learned, we're supposed to go over with our kids. But what we see is children that are in distress. Some of our children are in distress. And it's because some of our parents are neglecting our kids, thinking that they're going to grow up by themselves. If they're not going to grow up by themselves, you either going to influence it or TV going to do it. Somebody is going to teach them to grow up. And if we don't take it serious, we're going to have a lot of kids be destroyed, and it's going to be our fault. And we're going to have to take accountability for it.
Right.
Hold on. Let me see where we at. Where we at? Oh, y'all slid it up. No. We good right here. Let's see. Read the when. Yep. When peer pressure fuses.
When peer pressure fuses with age and street time, youth become socially aware of the contradictions between what school teaches them and the realities of their communities. Disillusioned, they begin to act out negatively.
They begin to act out negatively because they realize what the streets say versus what schools say. So then they say all this is lying and everything else. Go ahead.
Although peer pressure has become the greatest influence of many of our children.
And that's the same thing as social media. That is social media, because they ain't on social media listening to grown folks have smart conversations or good conversations. They on there watching dumb stuff.
Right.
Absolute stuff that is ridiculous. And some of our kids get caught up into practicing some of the stuff that they're watching. Like some of our kids at 9 and 13 watching porn. And then they go out here and start practicing what they're watching, and that is because the mother and the father is not paying attention. They've neglected them to put them in front of a computer or a tablet or TV all day versus actually continuing to build off of what they're learning at the school 24/7. And then sometimes, just to talk about this, sometimes we'll mess around and have adult parents in the body that may see something and they won't say a single word, but they'll gossip about it to another person, as though that daughter or that son in the body ain't yours. Instead of you trying to have a solution, you want to talk about it. Not understanding when that word get back, if you ain't the parent, when that word get back to the parent, you could possibly offend one of the little ones, because you're not here to help them. You're here to destroy them because you want to gossip instead of coming with solutions on how to help the child. Some of y'all make me sick with that crap. Sit there and talk about kids and stuff like that, but then won't go to the parent, and you won't take the child under your wing either. So you might as well just shut up then.
Right.
Ain't no need in you even speaking about it.
I need you to shut the hell up for the immediate future.
Because you ain't coming in here with solutions. You coming in here to tear people down, and you don't understand the judgment that will come on you if you are not cautious. Because if you offend one of the little ones, like I say, you might as well just put a meal around your neck. Not understanding you could offend a child because a 13-year-old know what the heck going on. A 12-year-old know what somebody talking about them. And they could have got caught up in something that you know nothing about. But because you gossip and did not take them under your wing to help them, now you've offended them. Now that parent that got to deal with that child at home, now that child don't want to come to the school no more. Now that child bucking up at their parent because they embarrassed to come here. Not understanding the freaking adults that didn't have it in their spirit to be quiet and actually try to help the child instead of gossiping about the child could possibly destroy that child.
Message.
Every child in here, we got to see them as our own son and our own daughter. We're talking about the sons today. But we got to see them as our own. And that's the problem that we having, is that some of us don't see our children as all the kids as our own. They already got to deal with people messing with them out there. So when they come in here, we ain't supposed to be that way. Some of our kids do got to go to public school because the parents have to work. That's just a situation that they in. But when they come in here, this is supposed to be a safe place, not worse than what it is out there on the street.
Right.
And then it be adults. Let's go back to the thing before I just get mad. Well, I already got before I go off my whole topic and leave completely. Here we go.
Although peer pressure has become the greatest influence of many of our children, and we will probably never be able to reduce its power, we can infiltrate and incorporate our values into the peer groups to reinforce academic achievement.
And that's exactly what is what's the darn gone program that we got? Little Lights. That's what that is. That is a peer group to reinforce academic achievement in our kids. And many of our kids ain't even in it. Many of us didn't even put the app. We don't even log into the app to do the exercises that they put out there. And that's a beautiful program. They got some good stuff. But we should be putting our kids into these groups because that peer group is going to reinforce the academic achievements that we all want our kids to have. But we have to take advantage of it first. We can't neglect those different things and then think that they're just going to miraculously become good men. And you mothers, get out of the way of the fathers that's trying to deal with them because you thought the man was good enough to marry him, but now all of a sudden he can't discipline his own child when he knows what it took for him to become who he is. So therefore, he's trying to save his son. The heck out the way. Read on.
In my earlier book, To Be Popular or Smart, the black peer group, I indicate that peer pressure has reached such a negative proportions that when our children are doing good in school, doing a good job in school, many of them are teased, especially when a boy is doing well.
And that right there, shoot, I experienced that myself. Getting good grades, oh, you a goody two shoes, you a square. Right. That's what they do. What it say? Yeah, teacher's pet. What's another one? Nerd, all that. I embraced that thing. I embraced the geek too. Nerd and geek, all that. I didn't embrace it until college though. When I was in high school, did the bare minimum. Unbelievable. Huh? Oh yeah, they call you white people because you want to be smart, because you want to get good grades.
There's powerful niggardry at work here.
But a lot of times, because they don't have that peer group around them when they come home, because they get neglected, they are in a situation of distress, that they can't stand up to the peer pressure and recognize the difference between negative peer pressure and positive peer pressure. So therefore, they take that negative peer pressure, and that's what they live by, because they're tired of being teased versus embracing you're going to be teased. And that's what fathers do. Fathers tell their kids, look, you gonna go, hey, as you get good grades, people gonna tease you. Don't worry about it. Them very same ones that teasing you, they gonna be the ones that's gonna probably be in jail somewhere when you get into high school. But as long as you do what I told you, you gonna be all right, son.
Right.
Fathers talk like that. Fathers tell their kids that.
Right.
We don't hide the fact that they gonna get teased. We tell them everything they about the experience, and we tell them how to overcome it, because we ain't emotional about it. We know it's gonna happen. Mothers will try to guard them from it because they're like trying to protect them and not tell them, not understanding they need to know, because they don't want them to feel that way before they get there. Versus fathers like, nah, this coming. That's why we important. That's why you see these different things when both parents is in the house. Is a totally different type of child that's in that house. Go ahead.
Now it becomes even harder when they are on the honor roll because they are accused of acting white.
There it is. They call them Edomites, like Officer just said. Like Officer just said, they start calling us Edomites because you talk, and read proper. And we better than that, man. Our people have become so low that we don't even want to embrace sounding like we have an education. That's why we got now all the ebonics and stuff that we do. That's what we do. But we got to learn how to flip the switch, turn it on and off. And the ones they could turn it on and off, they could turn it on and off and go into corporate world or whatever out here and run a business meeting, run their own company, because they got to talk to people. And the ones that cannot overcome that teasing will be the very same ones that then we got to try to figure out how to fix them later on in life when they grown. And it's a lot harder to fix a grown man than it is a child. Let's read on.
When they speak proper English, they receive the same accusation.
Go ahead.
One-
Let's see. And jump on down. Yep, go to the next page. That was the last page? All praises. So as y'all see, our kids experience these things. And like it said, in this particular case, mainly our black boys. So if our black boys are in a distressed situation at home and they go into a distressed situation at school, they getting hit with the double, with the two hooks. They getting hit with two hooks back to back, bam, bam. All we got, but we supposed to be pushing them in a different direction. We're supposed to be pushing them in a different direction. What's this right here? I didn't send y'all this. Oh, this the Willie Lynch. I did. Yeah, let's read this. Let's go ahead and read the highlighted right here. Let's read the highlighted. Put it on screen. Zoom in a little more. Well, dang, it's gonna take it off the screen because the way it's wrote. All right, let's go ahead.
For the fear of young males,
Now, this right here is the Willie Lynch letter. So those of you, if you don't have a copy or whatnot, you can get it on Amazon still, but you can also download the PDF as well off the internet. You know, some people try to discredit it, but yet and still, what it says is exactly what we see. And it happened. So whether they want to try to discredit or say it's false or whatever, shoot, the stuff happened. I don't understand. But go ahead.
For the fear of young male's life, she will psychologically train him to be mentally weak and dependent.
So this is what our women do that have been duped with society, because this still happens right now. They will train the men to be physically strong but mentally weak and dependent. They will psychologically train them that way. That's why sometimes we get men to come into the truth now, and we tell them 7 seconds drill, but the 7 second drill is also for you to exhort your voice.
Right.
And they'll read the scriptures. Lamentations chapter 4, verse 3. Even the sea monsters draw out the breast, they give suck to their young one. They mumble in the words because they've never been used to being loud in their life, because everybody tells the black man to shut up. Even his own mama. Even his own mama will tell him to shut up and be quiet. Just do what everybody say. Don't say anything. Whatever they say, go do it. Depend on them. Don't think. That's what our mothers are teaching the children. Now, when we come into the truth, that's got to change. It cannot be, well, we're going to treat the sons the same way we did in the world, but we're going to continue to raise the young daughters to be strong and all. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
It don't make sense. Read on. Read the first sentence again.
For the fear of the young male's life, she was psychologically train him to be mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong.
That's your football players. That's your basketball players. The only way out the hood in the black person's neighborhood is goddamn football and basketball. That's it. And that's what all our people glory in too. And then when if they live to be older, that's all they glory about. You know, back in the day, we was balling in high school. You could nobody touch us. Well, what you doing now?
You niggas are crazy.
Huh? Yeah, but no, it ain't even that they become the coach. Cause the coaches at least got something to talk about that they giving back in some way, form, or fashion. But it be the ones that ain't doing anything and they just there. They glory about what they did in the past versus whenever we in the Bible, shoot, we ain't stopped. Our glory days is to come. Shoot, we getting built up to go do more work. We getting built up to go places we never even thought about going to go teach the Bible.
Right.
Shoot, people know. Look, we know we might not even come home, and we go right on out there anyway. Let's go. All praise to the Most High. That is because that mentally weak is coming up off of our men. That mentally weak is coming up off of our men. Read the rest of it.
Because she has become psychologically independent.
And that's exactly what our women have done. They become psychologically independent. Because they'll say they independent. And they don't need no black man, yet and still you physically depend on the white man, on the government. You married the government and you psychologically told yourself you don't need no black man. Go ahead.
She will train her female offspring to be psychologically independent.
So then the women will then be independent mentally. They will be able to think on their own and be more confident when they walk in the room. They're able to handle themselves or speak well and things like that because they're independent versus the man has become dependent. So if ain't nobody doing something for him, he can't do it. And that is being overturned in this truth. Go ahead.
What have you got? You've got the nigger woman out in front of the nigger man, behind and ski.
So the nigger man is behind and skirt, and we see that even in our children at 9 through 13. They've already been taught to be behind the woman at 9 through 13. They already scared. They not even want to even take their place at 9 through 13. And that ain't in everybody's household. We only talking about a few. But it's also something that even those that appear to be doing well, there's things that could be done better. Go ahead.
This is a perfect situation of sound sleep and economic.
Mm-hmm.
Before the breaking process, we had to be alert, on guard at all times.
No, we good right there because when you read the rest of that, because the strong black men that was independent, they had to be on guard at all times. But once the black man was broken, they could sleep with no problem because the mothers would make the men sit down. Don't do nothing. Be quiet. Only move when they tell you to move. Don't fight for your freedom. The women were becoming psychologically independent and trying other manners to get themselves free and stuff like that too. But the men had been broken so bad that they wasn't, and the mothers was telling them to be weak. And that's something that we still see. You can take that down, officer. And that's something that we still see. That still happens. So what we got to do now, we must teach our children. Go to First Maccabees. Hey, we in the Feast of Dedication. First Maccabees 2:64.
The book of First Maccabees, chapter 2 and verse 64.
And that's what we got to do. Go ahead.
Wherefore, ye my sons, be valiant.
And this is Mattathias. He's talking to his sons. He said, hey, my sons, be valiant. Go ahead.
And show yourselves men in the behalf of the law.
It says, sow yourselves men on the behalf of the law. All right, go ahead.
For by it shall ye obtain glory.
So only by the commandments will we obtain glory. And that's the kingdom, ultimately the kingdom. But that also, let's go to Deuteronomy 4. Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 5 and 6. Read that.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4 and verse 5.
Mm-hmm. No, read 6. Yeah, 5 and 6 and 7. Go ahead.
Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments,
Mhm.
even as the Lord my God commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it.
Mm-hmm.
Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom
So the commandments is our wisdom. Go ahead.
and your understanding in the sight of the nations.
So when we keep the commandments, that's why what Bishop be saying off of the movie who learned you, man? That's why they said that, because all of a sudden he's not like everybody else. Our sons ain't like everybody else in here. So when they come in here, when our sons come in here, us as parents, we must then also not just build ourselves up, we have to build our sons up also. Go ahead.
We shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is wise and understanding people.
So that's also glory. That reproach is going to be removed. So when we keep the commandments and we be strong and show ourselves men, that reproach is going to be removed. Let's go back. Well, let's read. Let's see. Yeah, read that.
For what nation is there so great, who have God so nigh unto them,
Mm-hmm.
as the Lord our God is in all things that we call upon for him?
And that is how, by us keeping the commandments and the other nations seeing our wisdom through keeping the commandments, then they themselves ain't got no choice but to say, that is a wise people right there. That is a well-ordered people right there. That's why we say we are an organized nation. It's because that's what we're getting back to. All right, let's go. Let's go back to where we was at. Read verse 65 now. First Maccabees 2 and 65.
The book of First Maccabees, chapter 2 and verse 65.
Go ahead.
And behold, I know that your brother Simon is a man of counsel.
So Mattathias knew his sons. He says Simon is a man of counsel. He examines the matter. He knows how to take some stuff in and be like, I don't think we should do that. Let's do this. Go ahead.
Give ear unto him always.
Give ear unto him. Hey, y'all brothers, listen to Simon. He'll be able to tell you what to do. Go ahead.
He shall be a father unto you.
Uh-huh.
As for Judas Maccabees,
As for Judas,
he have been mighty and strong,
go ahead.
even from his youth up.
Read.
Let him be your captain and fight the battle of the people.
So he knew Judas too. He said, look, Judas is going to be the warrior. He going to go fight. But Judas, listen to your brother Simon, because he ain't gonna send you out here to go do nothing crazy now. You going to be the mighty one to go out here and fight. But Simon is going to be the one to give the instruction. Letting you know he dealt with his sons. He knew his sons. But you got to think, his sons took on his spirit also. Because, of course, he had another son, Jonathan. Am I right? Two more sons. But let's jump back up. Let's see the spirit that Mattathias had. 19, verse 19. Read verse 19.
Second Maccabees chapter 2 and First Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 19.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, for all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away every one from their religion of their fathers, and give consent to his commandments.
Mm-hmm.
Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers.
So the same way he told his sons to show yourself a man in the laws of God, that's what he did. That's what he did. So that's what we got to do. We got to show ourselves men so we can tell our sons to show themselves men. Go ahead.
God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances.
Go ahead.
We will not hearken to the king's word to go from our religion, either on the right hand or on the left.
Read.
Now when Now when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment.
So now you got a Jew, one of our own brothers. Right after he said this, here he come wanting to do the darn on abominable sacrifice anyway. Go ahead.
Which thing, when Mattathias saw it, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear to show his anger, according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar.
So at the top he had the council. This is what we gonna do. God forbid we go against our God. And then at the bottom right here in 24, now the warrior of him. So the Judas part right here is what we're reading about. Judas took this on. Simon got the top part where he giving the counsel. He passed that on to his kids. And that's what we got to do. So when y'all mothers come in here, even if you're a single mother, you got fathers in here for your children. But you have to allow them to be in that space. If you're like, well, I don't need nobody correcting my son, you're going to have that emotional son, and you're going to be worried about his wrist being broke. And then you're going to be in here, after that get to that point, then you're going to be saying, can y'all talk to him?
Feed us.
Read on.
Also, the king's commissioner who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time. And the altar he pulled down.
So he killed and pulled down the altar and all that. Go ahead.
Thus dealt he zealously for the law of God, like as Phineas did at Zambria, the son of Salmon.
This is when he stabbed him through. When you read that back in Numbers, go ahead.
And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me.
So this is what he said. So Mattathias done went through the whole city, and he loud. Hey, whoever want to keep the laws, you come with me. Go ahead.
So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city.
So he had his whole family in order. He and his sons. Him and his kids went with him. And that was why it was very easy for this next part for everybody else to do it. Read the next verse.
Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there.
Go ahead.
Both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore upon them.
So because of the example that he had and had his sons, he passed down those same spirits to his sons. And they all saw the way the whole family moved. They couldn't help but their whole family moved too. They wanted the same thing. So when he passed that off to his kids, hey, Simon, you be the counselor. What do you think Mattathias was doing while everybody was in the wilderness? He was the counselor. Who would you think was fighting the wars? He was fighting too. And he passed those responsibilities to his sons. Go to Sirach 31 through 6. Sirach 31 through 6. We almost done. I got a lot more, but like I said, we all right.
Sirach 31,
30, chapter 1.
The book of Sirach, chapter 30 and verse 1. He that loveth his son causeth him to oft to feel the rod, that he may have joy of him in the end.
So we must make our sons off to feel the rod, meaning we have to discipline our kids. Often. Often. So when your son come in here, which lets you know as the parent that you are the authority. So when you say, well, I'm just gonna let my kids dress how they want to dress, or where they hear how they want to wear it, you control that. So if they looking like Mephibosheth up in here, and that's what they themselves said that's what they want to do, you got to be kidding me that you would allow that as a parent when you don't look like that. Or your daughters don't look like that when you got a son. We have to look at our sons because what we're reading is who they are going to grow up to be, Lord's will. But they're only going to be that way if we groom them up to be what we're reading. Go ahead.
He that chastiseth his son shall have joy in him, and shall rejoice of him among his acquaintances.
And that's what all of us parents want to do. We want to rejoice over our sons. Go ahead.
He that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy.
Matter of fact, we want to rejoice over our son. Let me get the video. Dang. You know what? That's the other video that y'all had, the first one. And I said we didn't need it. I liked it. That actually go with this. The one where the dude was saying how the father is the one. And y'all can put these images up here while we read. But are y'all able to find that video again? The whole praise. You might have to go to the history. You might have to look in the history. But I read that verse again. Dang, my bad, bruh. Oh, here we go. Read it again first. Let's read the verse, and then he's gonna go ahead and put the video up there.
Yes, sir. The book of Sirach, chapter 30 and verse 3.
Mhm.
He that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy, and before his friends he shall rejoice of him.
It was verse 2. Verse 2.
He that chasteneth his son shall have joy in him,
Mhm.
and shall rejoice of him among his acquaintances.
And shall rejoice of him among his acquaintance. Listen to what this says. Now, of course, we know that us in the truth, we want all of our young men to be well. We want them to do well, but we also understand, with the competition and stuff on the earth, how other men, it's a dog eat dog world when you out there trying to make it happen. But let's see what this guy says right here. Let's read that.
The only man on earth that wants to see you succeed more than him in this life is not your best friend. It's not your brother. It's not your relatives. It is your father. The only man that's comfortable in this life to see you bigger than him, that prays it as a prayer. The only man.
Stop it right there. That is a heavy statement because as fathers, we want our sons to be better than us. And you hear that from leadership because they are our spiritual fathers. They want us to be better than them. That's why they can look at us and say that, because they truly take on the role of a father. Just like us, when we take on that role of a father with the children and stuff in the body, we want them to be better than us. The only people that feel like that is the father. Because guess what we get to do? Read that verse again.
Verse 2. He that chasteneth his son shall have joy in him, and shall rejoice of him among his acquaintances.
Now, when it says he that chasteneth his son, that is the grooming of his son. Meaning you're going to discipline your son. You're going to teach him the different things that he's doing wrong so he can fix those things, so that when he get older, you can then say, my son is better than me. He took that thing farther than I did. And you can say that amongst your friends and them. Go ahead.
He that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy.
And that grieves the enemy. We have to understand that whenever we teach our sons, the enemy is upset because they are being better than we ever were. And when we really put the time into our kids, what we're reading is what they will become. If we do what this says by chastening them, make them feel the rod, teach them, which takes time, which takes effort, where you're going to be tired. You have to endure that. Teach them. Go ahead.
And before his friends he shall rejoice of him.
And you're going to rejoice of them before your friends. Go ahead.
Though his father die.
And when we get ready to die,
yet he is as though he were not dead.
It's going to be as though we were not dead, because our son's going to pick up the mantle. They going to feel, they feet going to fit in the shoes. Sometimes you have a lot of people say you can't even fit the shoes your father had on. It ain't going to be like that with us. It ain't going to be like that with us. They going to put their feet in the shoes, and their feet going to bust out the shoes, because they going to take it further than we ever did. Go ahead.
For he have left one behind him that is like himself.
That is like itself. That's why when we see the video of the dedication that Bishop and them did, that Bishop and his son and Deacon and his son, and you look at that and you like, dang, that's some cold-blooded stuff to see that. You know? Bishop came out and got on the track. And everybody was like, yo, that's crazy. But then he on the track with his son. And he like, Father, teach me your ways. That just hard. Let's go. Read on.
While he lived, he saw and rejoiced in him.
So
and
while he lived, he saw and rejoiced in him.
And when he died, he was not sorrowful.
He ain't going to be sorrowful. Go ahead.
He left behind him an avenger.
Left behind him a what?
An avenger.
A what?
An avenger.
That is what our sons will be, but we have to put in the work to teach them first. That's what we want them to be. Our sons are going to be avengers. So when they come into the body, we have to take care of them. We have to nurture them. We have to make sure they understand what it's like to be a clean person. You can put that on the screen. Just let it, let it play. You ain't got to have the words, but they can see it. But that is what that is. We have to teach them to be the avengers. They not just going to magically become an avenger and nobody gave them any instruction. That's why everything before it had to happen before we got to 6. You got to chasten them. You got to make them feel the rod. Then you got to teach them. And then while you're teaching them, then they become, once they get of age, that avenger, because they understood the shoes they had to fill. They understood the expectations that you set, because whatever they think about themselves is who they are. So you set the bar high, and they've been trying to hit that bar. And when they finally hit it, they're going to go right through it. They're going to bust through the ceiling. Then they're going, like I said, the enemy is already mad, because that's why they already see it happening in our young sons now. So for those of us that's behind the 8 ball, let's catch up. Read on. Read that verse again from the top.
He left behind him an avenger against his enemies, and one that shall requite kindness to his friends.
And one that shall requite kindness to his friends. Hey, you got the other video? You got the video? Well, no, that was you played the video already. You played the video. Now let's get an example of that. John 3. Or is it 5 and 30? Is it John 5 and 30?
St. John.
Because Christ left us an example. He left our children an example too. He left us an example. Because remember, Christ was a carpenter, just like his earthly father was a carpenter. Let's see. Is it 5 and 30? Is that it? Yes, it is. That's what I want. Read that.
The book of John, chapter 5 and verse 3.
Mm-hmm.
And these lay a great multitude.
30, verse 30. 5 and 30. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. The book of John, chapter 5 and verse 30. I can imagine of mine
No,
own.
I can of. Go
I
ahead.
can of mine own self do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
As I hear, I judge.
Go ahead.
And my judgment is just.
Go ahead.
Because I seek not my own will.
Because he didn't seek his own will. Christ didn't seek his own will. Go ahead.
But the will of the Father.
But the will of who?
The Father.
So he came to do the will of his Father. Just like we said, just like we was talking about, how our sons are going to grow up. They're going to have a fear of us as fathers. And then it's going to turn into respect, and they're going to fear the Lord. They're going to fear the Lord. I got to do the Lord's business. That's what Christ told them when they found him, when his parents was looking for him. I got to do my Father's business. Now, like I said, they looking crazy. They look what the world going on. I am your goddamn. You can imagine. You can imagine. But they understood what he was doing. Read that again. From
Verse
the top.
30. I can of my own self do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
As I hear, I judge.
Mm-hmm. That's how we want our sons to be. When they hear, we want them to be able to give proper judgment, proper counsel, make proper decisions. Go ahead.
And my judgment is just.
And the judgment be just, the decision be fit for the situation. Go ahead.
But I seek not my own will.
But they're not going to seek to do their own will selfishly. Go ahead.
But the will of the Father which have sent me.
And that's who will they're going to do. They're going to ultimately do God's will. And doing God's will, they're going to raise up their people. They're going to become those avengers. But before they become those avengers, we must build them up at home, because they have a whole system that is out there to destroy them. So we have to put in just as much or more work to make sure they don't fall to that system as the enemies put into it to create the system. So, Hebrews 2 and 1. We'll end it right there. Hebrews 2 and 1. So hopefully, family, y'all got something out of this. Hopefully, y'all got something out of the class, man. Just something just meditate on, just thinking about. And based off of what the officers them had brought out this Sabbath, it just was on my mind. 2 and 1.
Yes, sir. The book of Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 1.
Go ahead.
Therefore, we ought to give more earnest heed to the things which we have heard, lest at any time we should let them slip.
So as we go through these different things, and as y'all listen to the class throughout the days, throughout your weeks, from the bishops, the deacons, the captains, and the officers that's online, make sure you're taking heed to what they're saying, lest we let them things slip, and then we act like we don't have a job to do in here as parents when it comes to dealing with our sons. Because if we don't deal with them, the world gonna deal with them. And once that happened, they lost. They are lost. So, with that, family, we'll end it right there. We say shalom, Most High in Christ, bless.
What is a nation? Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is men leading by example. Nation is women's support. Nation is children with role models. Nation is unity. Nation